Good morning, everyone. Did you hear the rain coming down? This summer, we were exposed to a hymn. It went something like, rain down, rain down, rain down on me, rain down your love on me. And it occurs to me that this church family, we always get the rain when we need it. And there is no life without rain. And so I just want to pause for just a second, just be amazed at how God takes care of us. Another way he takes care of us is he brought Guy home to us safely. Guy was on a mission to Haiti last week, and to be honest with you, I really worried about Guy. And he had a successful mission. It was very productive. But I want to say a special thanks to God for taking care of Guy, and I ask God to take care of all Haitians the way he has loved Guy for us. And Mikan, in his deep voice, it's an elegant voice, Mikan, just reminded us that Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me. Do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." The children here with us this morning in this room or that room down the hall, their parents, their teachers, all the people who support their growth and development are all invited to come, to learn, and to take their anointed place in this life. We all have an anointed place in life, as well as the kingdom of heaven. When I was asked to offer brief remarks to kick off our Back to School Sunday this morning, actually, I jumped at the opportunity. And let me tell you why in 8 minutes or less. If there's a subject I know something about, it's the importance of learning, the role of teachers and schools, and the anxiety, the excitement, the thrills, and the fears that walk with us as students and parents. Now, I'm going to present my perspective in 3 parts, and I want to encourage you to think of your own perspective as I share some of my experiences. So let me break it down to you. The first part is my personal experience. Despite having a mother who loved to read, I started first grade not knowing how to even recognize my name. I can still see myself going from desk to desk, looking at these little red paper apples with green paper leaves glued to them. There's something written on them, but I could not recognize the letters J-O-H-N. My gifts were different from most kids, and in the 8th grade, I was advised not to plan to go to college. At least 5 teachers were kind, thoughtful, and willing to encourage me and teach me in ways that cracked the code to my learning style and to my future. It's safe to say that they saved my life. I'm not just saying it, I'm telling you, they saved my life. And they made it possible for me to stand here before you this morning. Mrs. Ham, in 3rd grade, recognized my ability to draw, which gave me something about myself to be proud of. Mrs. Dodd, in 5th grade, tapped my creative skills as something more than disruptive behavior. I was the cut-up kid in class. You guys remember that term? If you're my age, or a little bit older, Wayne, you know that term. Oh, that was the cut-up in class. Today, that child will be described as learning disabled. But I'm quick to remind whoever's using that description that it's not a disability, it's a difference. I had a learning difference. Mrs. Kisner took me under her wing and patiently nurtured me as I found myself, and she saved me from humiliation. Even though I was placed in the last row of seats in her class, And Rosemary, who was in that same class in the front row, still reminds me to this day that that's where the poorest students were seated. Along the way, Mrs. Kisner unlocked my interest in history, civics, and in governance, and I went on to spend a 40-year successful career in those areas. Professor Hamill, this is my second year of college. I went to college anyway, by the way. He was my speech professor, and at my school, everybody had to take the speech course. I had a roommate who consumed a half a bottle of vodka each morning that he had to go to speech. He was so anxious about it. Mr. Hamill pushed me forward, and he gave me a chance to discover what I was capable of. He even invited me to join the college debate team, which led to a state championship. I was a state champion debater. It really had more to do with my partner. You debated teams of two. I didn't mess it up for her, we'll put it that way. But think about it. I was a guy that prior to being exposed to Stu Hamill would hardly whisper my name out loud. And then finally, there's my Rosemary Williams, my wife, who inspired me by showing me that teachers can work their way even into the most challenging of lives, unlocking potential, building on the most basic skills, and helping others become more effective teachers. Many of you know Sally Callahan. It was Rosemary who guided Sally to become a teacher of the visually impaired. Sally received a free Ivy League education at Columbia University thanks to her initiative and to Rosemary. And there were dozens of others like that. So if you ask me which career in my marriage I'm most proud of, there's no doubt it's Rosemary's career. So in summary, teachers changed my life. Teachers, and I hope Bina is online, she's one of them. Bina recognizes, she taps, she nurtures, she pushes, and she inspires her students to be more than they can imagine, more like what God imagines for us. So our students are asked to trust, to follow, and to rise to the challenges placed before them, and there will be many of them. When all this happens, incredible results follow. So this morning, we list up each child, every student, all learning people for your prayers and for God's protection as they learn what's necessary to build a better world. So the second part of my perspective comes as a parent. And many of you know that Rosemary and I are parents to a 34-year-old and a 36-year-old son. Both were born in this church or to this church. Both were part of Joanne's Bible class for babies. That's a wonderful class, Joanne. They were part of our Sunday school program. They were part of VBS. I want to note that Tony Keating kicked Devin out of VBS one summer, but it was for good reason. That's part of being a parent. And they were here every Sunday until they left for college. Rosemary and I know what it's like to send children off to nursery school, to preschool, to kindergarten, to grade school, to middle school, high school, college, and we even sent one son off to the military during a time of war. Each step along the way is exciting and terrifying. The worry never ends, never ends. Now, we're not the only parents to worry, and I'm betting there are a bunch of them in this room right now. So you worry, will your children make friends? And then you worry, will they be good friends? And then you worry, will they keep up and even excel? And then you worry, will they get involved in sports and clubs and music and theater? And will they be as good and you hope better than their peers? We worry, will they stay out of trouble, avoiding the rules, avoiding drugs, the whole sex stuff? We all worry about that all the time. Rosemary said, you're not supposed to say that, but I did anyway. Because we all worry about it. We all worry about it. And we worry, will they find themselves? Will our children find themselves Will we recognize who they really are? Okay, will we recognize it? Will they realize their God-given potential? Will those that surround them accept them for who they really are? Now, I'm going to say these words again. We worry. Will our children find themselves, the human beings that God made and gifted to us? Will we recognize those gifts? Will we understand who they really are? Will they realize their God-given potential? And will those around them accept them for who they really are? So we hold parents up with prayers that they'll survive the worries, they'll rejoice in the victories, and they'll stay focused on supporting their children as they move up and out of the nest and closer into their God-given calling. So the third segment that I want to talk about, or third perspective, is what we've been taught as Christians. Now, Micah already reminded us that Christ wants us to bring our children to him. And I believe this church has tried its very best to do it, but it's not over. Proverb tells us to train a child in the way that he or she should go, and when she is old, Penelope will not turn from it. I'm certain of that, Penelope. And then in Psalm 32:8, God instructs us. He says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go, and I will counsel you, and I will watch over you forever. In Philippians 4:8, we hear, finally, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think of such things. And I want to pause for a second. I love these words. And in these times, we do so little of it. So little of it. So I'm going to repeat it again. Finally, whatever is true, think about the truth. Whatever is noble, live a noble life. Whatever is right, try your best. Whatever is pure, we have it in us. Whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think of such things, but let them be your lives, your calling card for life. And then finally, in 1 Corinthians, when Paul lists spiritual gifts, he lists teachers third, right after the apostles and the prophets. Think about that, how important that is, Charles, right? So this morning, we lift teachers, we lift school administrators, building staffs, and school board members up for your prayers and for God's care. So allow me to wrap up with some good news. Even I, the cut-up that wouldn't say his name and couldn't recognize the letters J-O-H-N, I grew up, and I grew through my education to a point where I was entrusted into your hands, this church family, that's helping me with my advanced years and the education that I still need to fulfill my destiny. The same is true for each of you, for Sylvia and for Kelly and for Margaret and Art and Sheldon and Jamie, and for Guy and for Grant and Sloan and Penelope and Giovanni and Aiden and Everett, for everyone in this room. We're all back to schoolers on a long life journey. I want to thank you for teaching me and for encouraging, and I want to encourage you to play your part, continue to play your part, knowing that there are many lessons yet to be learned. We'll do this under the watch of a good and loving God who will give us all the chances we need to move up to his front row and to our ultimate seat in the kingdom of heaven. And one last thing. I want to thank God for Mrs. Ham and Enola Dodd and Elizabeth Kistner and Stuart Hamill and Rosemary Williams, and I thank God for the members of the Stanford Church of Christ. Amen.